Well, if there are, beyond Donald Trump, if there are two buzzwords in the World Economic Forum this time around in the first 48 hours, it has to be energy transition and AI. And somebody who's now very well known in the Indian markets as well, a company which is very well known now is Hitachi Energy. And it's an absolute delight to have the global CEO of Hitachi Energy, Mr. Andreas Schierenbeck, with us to talk about how he sees uh, growth in the world, energy transition around the world, and maybe the India opportunity. Mr. Schierenbeck, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, the pleasure is ours. Can I start off with the biggest topic because it's the most recent topic, which is Donald Trump taking presidency. A lot of people believe that uncertainty will be the only certainty, and but I thought the one thing that stood out, if you will, is that while everybody believed that tariffs is going to be the order of the day, here he comes on the day one and says that yes, there will be tariffs, but we will evaluate the right kind of tariffs and then go ahead and put it, which probably shows that it won't be ad hoc, if you will. Could there be some bit of certainty in this whole uncertainty that people are painting?
You know, life is always uncertain. I think if you look back a couple of years, we never have had a situation which was not interesting from my point of view. But one thing is clear, the hunger for energy, for electrical energy is worldwide a phenomena which is not quite new. For most of us, we haven't seen it coming. Now we're dealing with the consequences. And I think the new administration has declared an energy emergency, which I think is dealing with the fact that they acknowledge that we need more electrical energy and we have to be faster on that, which is not only unique for the United States, it's something which you see all around the world.
Yeah, most certainly. In fact, if the last 3 years, because of geopolitics or without it as well, if the world has realized something that energy security would be paramount to how companies or countries can operate, both from an economic growth perspective as well as from a citizen's perspective, being able to survive and thrive well. So, how do you see the roadmap for the next 6 7 years? Would it be a swift transition to modern or renewable, clean, green energy, or would you believe it's be a combination of both because the world can't just wish away the erstwhile incumbent fossil fuel-led energy?
You know, in the energy business, you're always living in a world full of constraints. Actually, you have always to balance sustainability, affordability, and energy safety and security, which we have actually neglected in the last couple of years quite a bit.
Also,
On the other hand, we see that we need more energy. The IEA is estimating that the growth of electrical energy is 3 to 4 times higher than the growth of primary energy. So we have to add energy generation assets to the grid.
all right.
Actually, the grid is becoming now the limiting factor.
Oh,
And if you look around, even if that situation is more or less always the same globally, every country has to find their way how to deal with that. The Indian solution and the Indian approach is quite different from what Germany is doing or what China is doing or Japan is doing. So I think we have to adapt locally. But essentially, it's the same thing. We have to deal with the fact that especially in short term or mid-term, we have to add much more generation assets and more grid capacity to deal with the situation.
sure. Now, but almost everything that the world is looking at expanding on in the next 10 years is actually going to need much higher sources of energy than what it has needed in the past, be it data centers and AI related searches or power, electricity, etc. Right? Do you reckon that there is enough capacity creation that could happen to power all of this, or will we remain a deficit? The world at large or certain key growth areas will remain energy deficit for the foreseeable future?
I hope not. So it's an open question. We're just dealing with the fact. I think we will find good ways to mitigate that. I think we should focus on adding more resources, more renewables, which are actually the fastest and the cheapest way to add generation capacity. On the other hand, we have to focus on the infra base as well, because what we have, we can use much more efficient. We can expand the capacity of that. We can use the assets longer with the help of IT and OT, what we are doing at Hitachi, which we are not really leveraging at the moment. So I think there's definitely hope that we're dealing with the situation.
Okay. What within the new sources of energy would you be most constructive on? Because just trying to pick your brains here, that a lot of people believe that maybe nuclear energy is a great source of energy, but the NIMBY effect comes into play because people don't want it in their own backyard. right? So it's not in my backyard, nuclear, and therefore you don't look at that. Maybe look at solar and wind as the principal sources of renewable energy, and other things feeding in between. What are your thoughts here?
Let's answer your provocative question with a provocative answer. I think nobody likes anything in their backyard.
Okay.
The pushback against renewables, onshore wind, offshore wind, nuclear, whatever is always there, or power lines or cables, whatever you do, right? So I think we have to deal with people and with change and with the fears of the people. And they are, from my point of view, a little bit independent from what you're doing. I think it's a fact that nuclear this is the beginning of a great revival. If you look at all the analytics, most countries are in favor of that. They see the benefits. They have big expansion plans. So from that point of view, it will probably big construction period for these assets as well. But I think we need all of that. We need renewables, we need nuclear going forward, everything which is actually low on CO2 emissions.
Where are you most constructive on?
Well, I think it's a combination of all of these sources. There's not a single energy grid in the world I know which relying only on one source. So combination of hydro, of renewables, of nuclear, SMRs if they are available, of batteries, that's, and of course long power lines which can connect renewables to the grid. I think we have everything on the technology what we need. We just have to apply it.
Okay, and which is so okay. Let me try and rephrase this. Where is it that you are investing the highest amount of energies on? Because you, in your wisdom, believe that this is the highest area of growth. You may be constructive on everything, but maybe you're focusing that there might be a first amongst equals. I'm just trying to get there.
Well, actually, here with grid company, I don't have any energy generation in my portfolio.
Fine, yeah.
From that point of view, we're looking at the grid expansion as connection of renewables to the grid, because you have the volatility and the geographical distance. Especially in India, they transport a lot of renewable over thousands of kilometers. And of course, we're looking into power electronics as well, because I think that's the next thing to stabilize the grid, which is, from my point of view, not really visible. But with all the volatility, with all the new ways of generating, which have no rotating masses, so have problems with frequency and connecting, of course, bigger grids and bigger countries, you need a lot of power electronics for that. That's something where we're investing heavily as well.
Got it. How do you see the India opportunity, Mr. Sheetenbeck? Because I mean, if the markets are to be believed, the markets are clearly rewarding the steps that your Indian unit is taking quite admirably. But just, I mean, independent of how the market cap of an entity would do, I wouldn't want to indulge with you in that conversation. How do you see the business opportunity in India?
Our approach to India is very easy. So we invest in India for India and, of course, for the world. We just have made public that we're going to invest between 250 million-ish for capacity and expansions in our Indian operations. We're doing it because we believe in the Indian market. I just was recently in India, and I was really, really positively surprised how much change has going on in the last couple of years. India is now a very stable frequency, a well-connected grid, have a very clear and stringent strategy to build a lot of solar fields in the mountains where you have reliable sun, very good efficiency because it's high, it's the cool air, it's good sun. Combined with battery parks, make it really calculable, and then of course you have transported over long distances. And I think the underlying thing is as well to get more independent from imports of oil and gas, which is a good strategy because I think India is importing $180 billion every year. And,
it's a large number, yes.
It's a large number. It would be good for the Indian economy probably to reduce it. And of course, it's good for energy safety and reliability. So I think there's a very good strategy in place, long term from my point of view. And it's a very good place to invest. We have a lot of engineers there as well. So we have just built up 4,000 engineering people there to help us with the global challenge as well. So I believe in that. That's a great place to be.
Great. And that's music to the ear. But I also heard you say that you are investing in India for India and investing in India for the world as well. Could you elaborate a bit on that?
Well, first of all, I believe our business should be global, but as well local.
Yes.
So I want to produce locally for the local market. So what we are doing in India, we are producing products and services and solutions in India for the Indian market. Of course, we want to export that as well because we need a global supply chain. That's what I mean. India for the world. So the majority is for the Indian market, and of course to balancing it and of to leveraging that India for the world.
Okay. And you're seeing enough metal in terms of the policy roadmap that India is laying out for large multinationals like you to have the confidence to invest the money into the country currently.
That's definitely. Of course, there's always something where I would say, look, let's push for that. What I see in most countries is that they're realizing, especially the institutions, the regulators, that we have to come to a better approach of working together as regulator, customers, and an industry, especially in a situation where actually there's not enough supply in the market.
Right.
We have to come to approach from a transactional behavior, buying one transformer, one project, to framework agreements, actually from projects to programs to have more visibility, because I would happily invest more, but I need to see the horizon. I need to have it plannable. And a lot of regulators in the world, including India, are not allowing at the moment framework agreements, capacity reservations to make it more predictable. But I need there to invest even more.
Okay. So if that were to come in, companies like yours or you in particular would be actually inclined to even invest even more, you're saying?
I cannot speak for others.
Yeah, but for yourself. Yeah. Sorry. Of course. Okay. One. Actually, two last questions, if you will. One is, it seems to be a bit of a seller's market right now, if I can crudely use that term. For how long do you expect this to remain like a seller's market?
But actually, it was a buyer's market for a very
Yeah, that's true.
So I think it's okay. It's now a seller's market.
Of course.
We should not, as an industry, and definitely not we as Hitachi, not using that situation. So being open, transparent with our customers is one of our value set. But if I look at the development, independent if it's a seller's market, that's a different story. But I would say this energy transition and the super cycle, or the age of electricity, as IEA is calling it, I would say at least 10 to 15 years we will be in that situation. Maybe not in the seller's market, but this need and this boom for electricity, electrical energy, will continue definitely for the next 10 to 15 years.
Definitely next 10 to 15 years at the very least. Okay, lovely. My last question to you. The world was working with the presumption that interest rates might be on their way down after having climbed for 3 consecutive years, if you will, give or take. It does seem that it is a bit unpredictable right now. How do you see that aspect? Because it will have a big impact on cost of capital for all capex intensive projects, including energy plants of all kinds that are being set up, even in India, right? What's your sense on that?
Well, I know speculation on interest rates is
It's difficult.
Yeah, we know if you would know that, we wouldn't be sitting here, right? I think we are trying to find a clever way of financing our investments in a way a little bit independent of that. So for our India operations, for instance, we are setting new shares to finance our capex. So we're not taking any debt. So we are independent of interest rates. I think that's a good way forward. We're taking money from the shareholders and investing it locally. And on the other hand, of course, everything what is spent now on capex is already financed through. So I would say we definitely have the dependency on interest rates. And if it would be too high, then of course the investment climate would go down. Then we would need even better good business cases going forward, wrong visibility and all these things, pushing in the other thing. But I would say we are looking at it, but I would assume at the moment interest rate is not what is blocking us from doing our jobs.
Great, which is great to know. But lovely to hear your views, Mr. Andreas. Thank you so much for taking the time out and speaking to us this late on the second day of the WEF. Really appreciate your time. And when you come to India next, please do sound us off. Would love to have you in our studios for a live interaction.
Thank you for having me.
Now, the pleasure was entirely ours. And viewers, thanks for tuning in.